I hope you all had a good lunch individually, and also that you had a chance in your individual chat rooms to share your expertise and your perceptions. Are we lucky now that we have another man to listen to? Yeah? All right. It is with pleasure that I'd like to introduce Tan Toi Chia. Hello, we spoke yesterday.
Hello.
And you are the Senior Vice President and Head Group HR, Corporate Planning, Communications and Marketing at Certis. I had a very interesting discussion with you yesterday. I must say I was very enlightened and most encouraged, and I'm sure many are going to be interested in what you have to share. At Certis, Toi Chia, you're responsible for leading a broad range of corporate functions to accelerate the growth and performance of the group. And this includes overseeing your team in, you say human resource, I say human capital. Because if we do not capitalize the resource, we don't get the benefits. But anyhow, to care for and develop Certis's 34,000 global employees. And you've got corporate planning to set the strategic direction of the business, and communications and marketing to bring it up to the fore. Prior to this, Toi Chia, you were a consultant at Hydrix and Struggles, and a global executive search, which is a global executive search and leadership consulting firm. And we are delighted today that you're going to be discussing unlocking greater productivity in the workplace. This is actually a Certis case study, and this calls for advocating for diversity and inclusiveness in the workplace, creating a safe network within the organization to reduce anxiety and fear in the teams and to promote a successful work environment. Over to you, Toi Chia.
Thank you, You're most kind, and hello, everyone. Doing this after lunch is the most food coma-inducing time, so I'll do my best to keep this short. I do have an ask of the conference organizers. I can't seem to log in on my other device to share my PowerPoint. Can you turn on the two-device thing? If not, I'm gonna have to do this purely using my face and my words.
That's okay. We can share from our end.
Can I send you the deck then?
Yeah, of course. Yep.
This is the beauty of technology. Yeah? On the one hand, we grumble about.
Try now, because I've just enabled that multiple people can share. So you should be able to do that.
I will do that. Right. Unable to join this meeting. You've already logged in on another device.
Okay, no problem. Just send across your slide and you can get started, and then we'll do that. You can send it to Naomi. Okay,
I am now testing myself on how to get this done while trying to look interesting. Clearly failing. Just 1 second.
Don't worry. You know, there's been thankfully very positive things that have been said about men if you've been watching following the program. And
men apparently can't multitask. So I'm pretty determined to prove that that's a myth-busting thing. So it is actually, now
nobody can multitask, by the way. Not only men. Men or women cannot multitask.
You managed
so Naomi, it should be on the way to you. If it is not, I will also be forwarding this to Bernie, who happens to my colleague who helped me out on this. I'm going to send it to her too, so that she can attempt to put that on. Okay. In the meantime, let me start talking and give you a sense of who Certis is, so you get a sense of the background of the organization I work with right now. So, as Nor said, headquartered in Singapore, we are about 34,000 strong. We are owned by Temasek. We used to be owned by the government, and now it's the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Our headquarters, global operations, sit out of Singapore. We have a very, very large presence in Australia and in Hong Kong and in Qatar. And most people would know Certis to be a company that's based around security. And actually, we do that, obviously. There's a big diversity of roles we do. We do guarding from, key critical installations that I can't talk to you about or I'll get killed, to places you're more familiar with, airports, malls, banks. We deliver technology, robots, cameras. We do enforcement. We deal with lots of members of public on behalf of the clients that we work with. We are park rangers. We run a lot of the stuff that's happening at Changi Airport Jewel. From our folks actually dance when the light show comes on. We look after escalators. We look after queues. We do range and physical training for the Army. We do facilities management. And so we're actually quite a diverse organization. And that's one of the things when I joined the company about 3 years ago. It took me a really long time to figure out what the world of things that we work on. And so it's through this diversity that we have come to embrace the diversity for ourselves as well, because that is, after all, the customer base that we have. And our customers move very, very quickly with the needs and the response. And so we have to respond quickly to them too. And that diversity allows us to drive innovation, increase the productivity. And through that, we have lots of innovation, and that diversity of views that we bring in, the diversity of the workplace that we have, allows us to innovate quicker than a lot of our competition. So if I can move to slide 4, Bernie. So today we about 30% of our management roles. So when I say management, meaning non-frontline roles, are actually female. And we have a lot of technology roles, and I've snuck in on some of the earlier conversations, and that sounds usually like a male-dominated. Well, it's not. About 30% of those technology roles are also female, and so we are very gender blind in our hiring. We are looking for, Noel talked about this, people who can do the job, and we are also looking for the diversity to allow for better ideas quicker. Lots of nationalities, 25 working with us, lots of religions and race, blind to that too, and multi-generational workforce, and we've got folks really quite old working with us. Until recently, we had somebody who was 83, person left, and I think the oldest now in our midst is 82. So with this, the next slide, Bernie, with this diversity comes the need for me in my role as HR to think about catering to the different needs of the workforce. And I think if we try to drive this through a crazy amount of policy making and ending up with thick books that address every single possible need, I think we would have gone backwards, because that's not possible. And humans aren't rule-bound. And so we instead encourage empathy. And empathy allows us to understand each other's needs so that everyone feels appreciated, feels understood. We're happy. And when our staff and our colleagues feel safe, respected, and empowered, and then are given the opportunities, they take this on and they drive the output and the performance for the organization. And that in turn drives even better employee retention and promote and the diverse talent base. So we create this virtuous cycle for ourselves. Okay, and then on the next slide, I thought I'd share with you some of the more tactical things that we do to drive this. So for us, training is, we have a very, very strong training culture. Training is delivered through our own Certis Corporate University, and we also have a huge amount of online learning management systems, resources available through online systems. And we are constantly talking about how to improve the way we deliver training, the impact that training has to the different jobs, and the different grades of people, and the different work, and the different circumstances people are in. But the funny thing about training is, especially before COVID-19, it's a wonderful way for people to come together and admit that they could know more and be on that journey of learning more and becoming better. And that actually is a very strong way of driving empathy, humility, and cuts across rank, cuts across all sorts of things that puts us into various stereotypes. Well, we do also include in the training and recognition that we don't deal with diversity naturally well, and there are different things that help us to get there. And so you'll see on the slide on the bottomish right, that's a staff lanyard, and I can share mine here right now. And this is what we all staff have, and you'll see 4 colors on the lanyard. This one that is being shown as green, blue, red, and yellow. And they are the strengths for which we communicate with each other. This person's highest and preferred way of communicating is green, and I know that as consensus. Loves to seek everybody's opinion and then drive consensus. I've got red at the top, and red is I want outcomes. And I need to see a sense of we've made progress, right? I'm less comfortable sitting there trying to get consensus. It doesn't mean I can't do it. It's less natural for me. And because we wear this on our lanyards, when we talk to each other and we start to feel like not quite getting through, or why is what I'm saying creating not the most ideal reaction I might be looking for, I would not have a place to go to that recognizes that everyone's doing something differently and everyone responds to things differently. And because we're trained and taught how to deal with the different colors, we have tips and tricks. And we kind of go, so if it's me and I'm kind of going, can we just not move on? I realize that, well, hold on. Perhaps what we're missing out is the ability to draw on everybody's inputs first before we move on, right? So that's a live thing. We do that all the time. We are a big fan of 7 Habits of Effective People. And one of the key concepts that's not so obvious when you just read the 7 Habits is this thing called emotional bank account. And that's 100% connected to empathy. And if we put deposits into emotional deposits into the people we work with and we help them. I heard servant leadership earlier on today, supporting other people, then they too will support us. And if we assumed everyone's the same, that just would not happen. And then there are difficult conversations that we have, necessarily so. We have training around running crucial conversations, how to take emotions out of those conversations and yet not avoid those conversations because we need to handle those conversations. Yeah. And then when it comes to job opportunities, we are very active in moving people around different roles. I think this one, we've got a long way to go, but I frankly imagine a world where I could move people to areas that they have almost no technical expertise in and thrive because they bring so much that's different from what a traditional technical person in that role, a specialist in that role would bring there and help people think differently. And that's a thing that we're working on even further right now. And funny thing about COVID too, COVID-19 has actually given me new impetus to do that. In the past, when we think about mobility and moving people to unusual places, I would have to think about cost, right? Relocation costs are always a little bit high to think about. And in fact, there's been a general move to reduce those costs all around the world. But now that everyone's so accepting, including us here, running a conference virtually, we are now starting to experiment with folks who are continue to be based out of Singapore and take a 6-month mobility sabbatical to work with another business unit on something completely different. Let's see where that gets to. Again, I hope that also allows for the different markets to deal with the diversity of characters that we have in the organization. Okay, on the next slide, even in our CSR, corporate social responsibility, we celebrate the diversity of needs, but we also respect the strengths of the people that we support. So one of the key pillars is persons with disabilities. quite easy to think, let's go out there and just, champion that cause. But we are quite willing to, and we have recrafted work scopes so that we leverage on the strengths that they can bring to the organization. And then other people can cover for things that they are not so good at, and they find a way to work together. So it's not charity at all, it's working together. Yeah. We also have a citizen developer program, which sounds just like a technology thing, but basically we've started to use technology as an equalizer for everybody, again, to be completely blind to where you came from, what you have been strong at, what's a technical specialist. But anyone can be a citizen developer for us. If you're interested, sign up for it, go on a course and start building and bring together people for the strengths to build that app to solve a certain problem. Yeah. And then the last one, I just want to talk about something fairly new to us and I'm quite proud of. It's about a year and a half. On the next slide, it's an Alive Charter. So for every major meeting, Alive Charter, you see it on the screen. The chairperson will always nominate an observer, and the observer at the end of the meeting will provide observations about that meeting. So a couple of them are structure related. So the first one is having an agenda, and that's A for Alive. But you see the next thing is learn. So the learning and the empathy comes in again for L, that we use information so as opposed to being biased about what we feel and think, so being objective, that we encourage a share of voice so that everybody speaks up in the meeting, and we engage, not tell, and we respect, not impose onto members at the meeting. And so the chairman gets called out for behaviors at the meeting that don't drive this inclusion of ideas. And if people are too quiet, if the observer lacks a little bit of courage to say what's necessary at that meeting, we also put them through a survey so you can fill out a form. Everyone fills out the form at the end of the meeting and rates what they feel about the meeting and any other additional comments. And then we share that back with the chairman and they too get to improve. Okay, what kind of results have we gotten? So you see on the right a table. So pre-Alive, the question is, what % of staff who felt safe to share their ideas and suggestions? And they've got different levels of seniority within the organization. And middle managers, sometimes called the sandwich class, bosses tell them what to do. Junior managers don't want to do what they tell them they're told to do, and they really get stuck. And we're really happy that they've now found the voice, and the increase from 31 to 78%. They're starting to play a much more involved, engaged role, and I actually see them a lot happier at work and actively giving ideas that we would never have thought of. Okay, and then I'm going to jump to the next slide, COVID-19. We talked about it a little bit more. It was another wonderful way for us to show empathy. A quick story I shared, I'll share. We have work from home at some stage. So everybody worked from home. We had lockdown. Everybody was quite good with it. We figured it out. We increased our productivity by about 30%. Everybody felt they were working harder than working from home than they were in the office, which says a lot towards the purpose and the drive of our organization. When we came back to the office, bits of the organization came back. Not everyone did, so most of us still work from home. There was a girl who had reported to one of the HR heads that she did not want to come back. She was happy to come back to the office. Later on, the department decided that they were quite okay for them to work at home and told her, please go back and work from home half of the time. And she came back to the HR leader of that team and said, I would like to stay in the office. Now, most of us would have said, come on, do your part, right? We want to reduce the risk of infections, etc. As it turned out, the reason why she wanted to stay in the office was because her father, who was already abusive to begin with, had even more occasion to be abusive to her, given that he had lost his job. And if we asked her to go back home and do work from home, she's just got way too much exposure to this. And so I'm really, really happy that both her boss and the HR head, practice learning, listening, empathy. Don't jump to that conclusion. Listen to the unique situation of this individual, and found a way to make an exception that also didn't call her out and made her feel embarrassed about her personal situation. So just I want to share this, how we turn a crisis into just really more opportunities for us to practice empathy, which is so important to diversity and inclusion. And finally, from the company's point of view, awards are a great way to affirm what everyone has done. And so, Bernie, if you can go to the next slide, thank you. Year before, we did not do much in terms of awards. This year we said, you know what, let's give it a go and see what happens. So all of these were from last year. We've got Best Company to Work For. We didn't win Employer of the Year for an award, but we were finalists. We beat out some big companies, some of whom are represented here. So thank you for giving us a chance to shine. We were certified Great Place to Work and Great Place to Learn. Communications is a very important portion, skill for us, not only as a matter of a function, but also a skill that every leader must have. And so we've got engaging for success with the crisis management and the SABRE Awards for professional services firms won there. And we've got recognition of CSR. So I think it's really boosted everyone's courage to do more. I wanted to finish off and then allow for some questions with the next slide, which Bernie has not seen. So Bernie, you're going to help me a little bit. Slowly tap through, but don't tap through just yet. I'm going to tell you more about myself. I am a you can tap through that. I am a major introvert. There is a assessment type thing. I'm not doing it justice, called Emergenetics. And my friend runs the franchise in Singapore. He made me try it out. I did. One of the things they do is to check out what kind of energy you have in terms of social working with people. And he thought his printer ran out of red ink. Red represented being able to be socialize. And because I scored almost 0 on that. So I'm a major introvert. At the end of a long day, I really rather curl up on my own, even outside of my family. I'm married with a daughter. I rather they don't come disturb me. Second thing, Bernie, I'm pretty random. If I could, I don't know whether I've got my virtual background on, but I've got a drum set behind me. I started playing the drums fairly recently. If you looked at my playlist on my phone on Spotify, you'll find Japanese songs, Korean songs, Chinese songs, English songs. So sounds pretty normal right now. I've got Italian songs, I've got Spanish Portuguese fado on it. And they don't exist in different playlists. They all go at the same time. I've got pretty random interests. Next one. I'm rather confused. My strengths on many of the assessment tools that I run sit in places that don't naturally fit with each other. Yesterday, I attended a course, and after the course, I spoke to Noah on the phone, which was on coaching. My biggest strength, as I discovered, is to be appreciative of beauty. What? Right next to it is prudence. Second strength is prudence. Go figure. So I am a rather confused person. And the last one, oh no, are you stuck? As you might imagine, I'm often misunderstood. So as I think about this, on the next, if you can proceed to the next point, Bernie, as I think about my life in school and my life in the army, and I was for someone of my, for those who don't know, Singaporeans, guys all go to national service. Often, if you're of a certain educational level, you head out to become an officer and you kind of sit in that strata, right? I was not. I was in the lowest grade of army, which is the infantry. We are basically shields for bullets, bullet absorbers for the rest, right? And everybody around me for 2 years, I think the English level compared to me, if I were, 7 out of 10, there would be 0.5 out of 10. I had learned a whole new language, which previously I could only swear in. And now I've got to use that language, which is called Hokkien, which is the dialect in Chinese, to communicate. Convincing someone involves squatting by the drain with a cigarette in hand. I did not smoke before. You know, even in my career, I've been through not many careers, but you know, I've lived in many countries. One of the weirdest ones was to spend 5 years in Panama. I ran a port terminal. I built a container terminal on the Panama Canal. I was the only Singaporean there for a long time. It was dangerous, and I had to have a bodyguard and with a weapon and stuff like that, and stuff that Singaporeans just wouldn't even be able to imagine, you know, in a safe environment. So actually, all my life is all about not fitting in, and you know, I haven't done so badly. So there's encouragement after all. And so in my continuing journey, Bernie, if you can continue to the next 2 bullets. Some things I keep in mind. So I'm not alone. And what I mean is we are the same in that we are all very different in each other. I have been able to make a difference. I've proven that myself. I can make a difference. But you know what's more fun? If I help others make a difference. I don't always succeed in doing that because of all the things I have at the top. But okay, that's an aspiration that I try for, right? And then the last thing is we're better because we put our strengths together. And so if there are 3 words I can combine both what's happening in Certis and for myself. It's Bernie, to be curious, to be empathetic, and to be more. And I think you'll find ways for yourself, for your organization to use diversity and inclusion to drive better performance. I don't want to say productivity. Productivity sounds so dry, but just better performance and better success and happiness as a result of that for the whole organization. So there you go. Thank you for your time and thanks for all the chats which I have come through. I find it, thanks for all the encouragement. Appreciate it. Happy to take any questions.
Tai Chia, first I must say a huge thank you. You are so brave to stand out there and say that. And that in itself is your intrinsic strength. So that coffee between you and me is going to happen sooner rather than later. Having said that, I'm sure there are enough questions out there. Does anybody want to, I think we do have time for some questions. Do we? Lady?
Yeah, we have time. Yeah.
Good.
Actually, the question I have is because your experience is so eclectic. Do you think it also has a big part in terms of why you look at things to be more inclusive? Because I'm comparing you to other HR people who I don't think have that perspective of the world. So how can we encourage more people who don't have that perspective to be able to look at the world to where it's going versus where they're used to seeing?
Thanks for the question. You know, the old me, maybe about 6 to 8 years ago, would have a straight answer for you. But being curious, empathetic, and being more now, more of that now, I would suggest the following. My assumption is that, and I hope your assumption that everybody comes to work bringing their best. No one wants to come to work and do a bad job. However, how we go about doing that and what that best hopes that we have of the day, of the year, of the month, of the year is probably quite different. And I think that awareness, if you build that awareness for everyone and you encourage that awareness and the learning from your different colleagues who just might think more of me equals good. Hopefully they'll start to realize that, oh, they didn't want that, not so cool. And hopefully they also realize that they can't do everything themselves and they shouldn't want to do everything themselves as well because they'll be totally burnt out. And so if you need help and you want people to come along with you with your journey and you can understand and be aware of what drives other people and what common goals that we can get to, I think you'll find everyone will find their own answer as to how to deal with this. I know it's not a very straightforward and direct way to answer you, but I hope it inspires more options for you than a suggestion of one way. Does that help?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's also the fact that like you're obviously in a journey of self-discovery, but I'm thinking more in terms of people who have a very fixed mindset and then running the organizations. And that's where I'm seeing a big issue, because you can't grow something if you're having that kind of a narrative.
Yeah. You know, there is always for someone that we think have a fixed mindset, there's always a bit more for them. Why do they have that fixed mindset? What else is there that they can rely on besides doing more of the same that can get them to, and helping them to see it is probably the biggest gift you can give them. And you bet they get frustrated too.
Yeah.
And you bet they are pretty darn scared when you learn about, you know, I'm sure these are smart people, right? So you read about the world and everything that's people eating in your space. I bet they're struggling, you know, and recognize that. Be empathetic to their cause and their fears, and they will have those fears.
But yeah, can I just ask, for all the initiatives that you all have done at Certis, especially that study, which is so profound, did you all see more loyalty to the company? Did this translate into more people staying longer, but more importantly, increasing the number of women, especially women leaders who came forth?
So we used to lose people because they found something better. More and more we lose people because people think we've got good people. And so and that's a good thing, right? So Bernie actually works for me, right? And so I'll be very happy, Bernie, if someone comes to her and says to her, Bernie, Certis is such a great company and you work for such a great company. I want to poach you. That's great. So I think we have more of that now than before. It used to be people didn't like, you know, less interested and liked a little bit less of working for Certis. But it also means that if Bernie leaves us, joins the other company, she's also my evangelist. She tells the stories about, I see stories crush anxiety, good stuff. She'll be telling stories to other people about what good stuff we do in Certis. And that makes me also a lot easier to hire Bernie's replacement because people are already out there interested to join us.
Lovely answer. Any other questions? I think you want to talk to him one-on-one. Anyhow, if not, Taija, I really must thank you. You've literally floored us with your honesty about your own feelings. You've championed yourself by being very open and making us realize that we are no different. There's no why me syndrome. There's why us. And altogether, you know, the productivity of any organization comes from its people. When its people know who they're working for, who they are, then the numbers will show. So with that, I want to thank you very much again for that most informative session and wish you continued success.
Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation. And thank you, Bernie, for helping me out so much with this.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernie. And with that, ladies, shall we move to the next, I wouldn't say last, but certainly not least of this afternoon's program?
Oh, of course, yep.
Yep, okay. So, you know, there's a lot spoken about how people think, how people act, women multitasking, etc., etc. A subject that is rarely spoken about, but slowly being brought to the forefront, thankfully, is the mental health and well-being. We touched on that. Everybody touched on it, women multitasking, etc., etc. But it is ever so important that we realize and acknowledge that that is an issue across the board, old and young. And so we're very fortunate to round up this afternoon's session by having Chong Siak Ching, the Chief Executive Officer of National Gallery Singapore, who is going to tell us about reinforcing the importance of mental health and a healthy, balanced, and supportive workplace. We need to understand the impact of working from home, the arrangements on mental health to that regard, mitigating the negative effects of work-related stress, anxiety, and depression. Siak Ching, by way of background, you've been the CEO of National Gallery Singapore and head of the Visual Arts Cluster, VAC, since 2013. And actually, VAC comprises the Art Museum, the Singapore Tyler Print Institute, and the National Gallery. And of course, the National Gallery oversees the world's largest public collection of Singapore and Southeast Asian modern art, while Singapore Art Museum focuses on international contemporary art practices. I would suggest for those of you who haven't been there, do go. You would be amazed, because I did just only, again and again. Now, prior to this, you were the president and CEO of Ascendus from 2001 and was recognized as an outstanding CEO of the year in the Singapore Business Awards 2009 for your leadership and dynamism in establishing Ascendus as Asia's largest provider of business space. Now, as a director and board of Mandai Park Holdings, that must be a very, very interesting position as well. And you're a member of the Yale US Governing Board. And I could go on and on and on about this wonderful lady who was also conferred the rank of, do I get it right? Cavalier d'Ordre des Arts. You probably say it better, but the French Ministry of Culture in 2020. This is a very befitting topic to end this first day's session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Noor, and for the kind introduction. Also, thank you for the opportunity to be here with all of you this afternoon. So the topic I'm going to share is about art and wellness in terms of how art could in fact help to improve our mental health and wellness. And obviously, Noor, you've already done quite a lot of promotion for the National Gallery, which is what my background shows. And I do warmly welcome all of you to come and visit not just the beautiful building architecture, but also the wonderful art. So I'll share some slides that I have prepared, and hope that everyone will be able to enjoy some of the art that is that I'm showing now. Okay, so I will start with a video of a healthcare worker, and he is probably best placed to tell us a little bit about his own experience with a visit to the gallery.
Being a healthcare worker is very tiring. When we are on call, the shift is usually 30 hours long. The last thing you want to do is to then have interaction with anyone else in the world. So the National Gallery is a way for me to just say, okay, I'm going to forget what life is like, come here, look at the art, and just focus on that for a bit. The painting artist and model was something that really struck out to me, because we know that things were not great back then when the painting was being made. Despite that, it was painted with very bright colors. The lady on the left of the painting, she was actually helpless. You weren't trying to hide away culture, you weren't trying to hide things behind everything else, you're just painting the way things are. And to me, it just sort of shows that even when things are difficult, it's important to have a bright outlook on things, because eventually you will overcome. love the sound of nothing. It's so hard to find a peaceful moment nowadays. So if you can walk into a gallery and there's just the sound of nothing, I think the best thing to do is to just take a breath, take it all in. As healthcare workers, we're always trained that you must reflect. It is easier said than done, because it is very hard to do when you're constantly distracted. So when I come to the National Gallery and I look at some of the artwork and I have this chance to just wind down, it helps me recalibrate. When I think back to the lotus painting and you look at the bottom of the painting itself, you'll see brick and gravel. You know, despite the fact that there's gravel, there's things that's restricting the lotus, it still grew, it still bloomed. And to me, that is a very interesting aspect of hope. It's well and easy to say, you know, we should hope and thrive because we're a great nation. But to me, it is more important to think about how we can hope despite all this, you can still hope.
I love what he said, the sound of nothing. Sometimes we do need to block off all sounds and clear our minds and to take control of our thoughts, and that we can still hope despite. It's been almost a year now since circuit breaker kicked in on April the 7th, and work from home has become a norm. While it has given many of us the flexibility to be with family while we work, it has also been exhausting for many, has been reported, you know, in several different media. There's been blurring of lines between work and home. Some say that they can never switch off from work, and 59% saying that they are working during weekends. And what is also interesting is that in a recent Mercer survey, 48% of executives rank mental health being as a top workforce concern, but only 29%, less than a third, of HR leaders have a health and well-being strategy. And this has been also validated from our own gallery colleagues when we did surveying with them. They gave us feedback like, you know, work from home has increased a sense of isolation. Nothing is the same as being in the same space as your colleagues. I think many of us agree with that. And that working from home also results in having to multitask, very short lunch hours. But what they've also shared that's very important to them is the need for regular communication, and also to explain why certain changes are required during this period of flux. And that leaders should show empathy and be patient with them, and also understanding of the different challenges that each one may be going through. Surveys conducted by National Arts Council in Singapore has shown that a high percentage of participants who have engaged with art during the COVID period have perceived an increase in their general well-being. And this is also validated by another survey by Arts Council England, who says that arts engagement has teach us compassion, and it has a positive impact on our mental health, such as dementia, Parkinson's, depression. We conducted a research project with Mind Center of NUS, and indeed the results show that cognitive ability and the memory retention improves for those who are showing initial signs of dementia when they are exposed to art on a regular basis. Art and wellness is not entirely a new field. The Montreal Museum of Fine Arts led the way as being the first museum in the world to hire a full-time art therapist to design art therapy-based programs with their art collection, a new concept known as museotherapy. They have partnered many academic institutions to study the impact of art and wellness, and advocating also for social prescription. So imagine your doctor prescribing you a visit to the museum instead of dispensing drugs. Other museums that also advocate art and wellness include MoMA, of which they have a signature program called Meet Me that started since 2007 to support individuals with Alzheimer's disease. And very recently, the World Health Organization, WHO, launched a global campaign to partner art and cultural institutions to support mental health treatment and recovery, much of which is brought about by COVID-19 and is called Healing Arts 2021. At the National Gallery, we have always recognized the healing and transformative power of art and its ability to improve our physical and emotional health, as well as social well-being. So we created what we call a CARE collection. This is a collaboration between the National Gallery and Singapore Art Museum. And these series of artworks are used to support the mental health of individuals and communities, working with the Sing Health group with selected artworks around themes like courage, connection, disconnection, resilience, hope, growth. And these are used initially to support healthcare workers to prevent burnout, but certainly can be extended to all workers who are suffering the same. The other program that we rolled out is called Slow Art, where together with an art therapist, viewers are encouraged to focus just on one artwork and inspired by the principle of slow looking and mindfulness. This guided observation allows the participants to acquire visual literacy while exploring the intersection of visual art and emotional wellness. Words That Count is also another program using art to encourage empathy and compassion. So we introduced the concept of a blackout poem, a form of visual poetry that uses existing texts, often writings from artists or authors, to create another piece of art. And members of the public are encouraged to black out certain words and create your own art and expression, which you can then share as a form of encouragement to your neighbors or to others in the community to, show your concern, your care, but also to inspire people during these challenging times. So it's not just the museums, but also corporates, like in this case, the UOB group, who have started to use art as a way to support their staff and constituents. The Uob Art Explorer is a program that helps one to learn, explore art through a series of art tutorials, art therapy, art storytelling, and virtual exhibitions that's available to anyone, whether you're at home or in the office. When participants in our various art programs are asked to share and describe their experience after going through, some of the key feelings are shown here, and they include enjoyable, engaging, interesting, inspiring, calming. So these are all very positive emotions. And the participants in the Words That Count workshop highlighted how that has helped them to see the value of poetry to be more self-aware and reflecting on sometimes their unconscious choices of words for their poem, which is helpful to understand themselves better. I mentioned earlier that only 28% of HR leaders have strategies to deal with health and wellness. At the gallery, we have resources right at our doorstep to leverage art to comfort and heal. But it's also equally important to roll out other programs to address the different needs. For example, we launched a company-sponsored counseling services, which staff can anonymously and also, safely assess trained counselors. We provide psychological first aid training for managers, small group sessions, wellness talks, allowing telehealth or virtual health consultation from home, etc. So we try to make sure that employees are given the channels to address any concerns that they might have relating to their health, whether it's mental or physical. And we do pulse surveys to understand and to check in on how they are. I believe some of you may have seen this artwork mentioned a couple of times in the presentation. So to conclude, I would like to share a bit more about this artwork called Lotus in a Breeze and the inspiring artist behind it, Georgette Chen. Georgette Chen, who lived from 1906 to 1993, is a key figure in the development of modern art in Singapore and widely recognized for her achievements, not just as an artist, but also as an art educator. She was born in Zhejiang, China, received her art education in Paris, New York, Shanghai. So she's a global citizen and best known for her art in still life, her portraits and her landscapes. And she's a pioneer artist in Singapore, as she's instrumental in developing the Nanyang style of art and awarded also our cultural medallion in 1982. Georgette lived through many global and also local conflicts, such as 2 world wars and the Chinese Revolution of 1911 and 1949. But throughout all these upheavals, she strove to remain dedicated to her profession as an artist and an art educator. And in the post-war period, to our luck, she came to Malaysia, Penang, and then decided to come to Singapore when she was offered a teaching position in the Nanyang Academy of Fine Arts. And she continued to teach there for almost 3 decades. So she's an active influence in our art community. And she continued to paint and draw and teach despite the challenges of living with rheumatoid arthritis in the last years of her life. Lotus is a kind of a very interesting subject. The Buddhists believe that lotus represents achievements and spiritual enlightenment, but it also symbolizes wisdom, compassion, and divinity and purity of the soul. And by combining Western techniques and Eastern themes, Georgette has composed this classical masterpiece, Lotus Flowers, growing out of muddy waters. And in many literary and artistic works, they often represent a pristine beauty unsoiled by the dirt from the murky depths that it emerges. And the resilience that it demonstrates, I hope will resonate with all of you as it does me. So I close this session off with this painting of strength and resilience, and hope that the story of Georgette Chen has also inspired all of us to find strength and meaning to face any challenge ahead. And right now, it so happened that Georgette is having her exhibition at the National Gallery. It runs till September. And if you're inspired by her, please come visit and listen to the sound of nothing, but also be inspired by art as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siak Ching. Actually, I went to Georgette's exhibition. We had—
Oh, you did? I hope you enjoyed it.
Very much so. With my friend Pauline, we took 5, 2 men and 3 women. It was absolutely fascinating, exactly as you have described it. She is an incredibly strong woman, and she absorbed the cultures of all the places that she lived, you know, the Malay culture, the Chinese culture, and it is amazing, amazing. And I'm so glad you brought it out today, because as you go through her exhibition, you realize that there's a lot more in us that we can bring out, but which we don't. So thank you so much. And I just want to ask all who are here, do you have any questions for Siak Ching? I think they're all stunned. If not, I just want to say, yes, I really would encourage everybody to go. But most important, Siak Ching, I think you have chosen a topic, a very befitting topic to close the day 1 of the 7th Women in Leadership Asia Summit. It reminds us that we have to take time away for ourselves and contemplate what the world has to offer us, if only we will allow it to be so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so on that note, I just want to say that All too soon, we have come to the end of day one of this wonderful 7th Women in Leadership Asia Summit. This has been a very interactive session with wide-ranging issues on women. There was a lot of common ground and some areas which required much more food for thought, which came out clearly also in Yasmin's storytelling session. The overall consensus is a resounding yes to too much more having to be done and the need for voices to be heard. We also need to find ways to break into the men's club. It is perfectly all right to show our softer and more emotional side, as that could be looked as humane. And it could, in the end, be looked on as strength. It was also clear that women are a vital addition to productivity. In fact, I dare say it's good corporate governance to have gender equality as a key corporate policy, especially at leadership levels, and as and where leadership itself looks at how it can address the issues and concerns of women, and women leaders who are there can bring this to the table so that it can be discussed and measures implemented with measurables. So we certainly have to be mindful of our mental strength, as we saw, and our well-being. We tend to care for all first before caring for us, and we have to look after our health. I want to take this opportunity to really say that the overall message is leaders lead the way, but leaders must believe in walking the talk. Corporates with excellent and successful initiatives in pushing women gender issues, especially those relating to career progression, pay equalization and programs and special learning and development programs, should publicize it. Certis did just now, and all the others. In fact, it could be an excellent way to recruit the right people into the organization, as we heard. So this year, more than ever, society is eager to hear it, so let's give it to them. But in the final analysis, ladies, it is up to us. We must believe we can. We must and have to manage our egos to the point where we don't run ourselves down and instead use it as a point to strengthen our beliefs. I just want to say in closing that I would like to take this opportunity to thank the wonderful team at Event Edge, Tyler, Naomi, and Elizabeth, for your excellent handling of this event today and all the interactions over the past few months. Thank you, ladies. I've learned a lot and appreciate your patience and ideas. All of us know Amanda Gorman. Before I end with her words, I just want to ask, has anybody anything to say that you would like to share? If not, then let me say that this wonderful poet, and I love her, she wrote the poem, The Hill We Climb, at Biden's inauguration. And she says towards the end of her poem, and I quote, "For there is always light. If only we are brave enough to see it, if only we are brave enough to be it." So ladies, let's be it. I wish everyone continued success and enjoy tomorrow's session. Tomorrow will be with another chairperson and another interesting program with wonderful speakers. And of course, the key speaker, Minister Edwin Tong, Minister for Culture, Community and Youth, and Second Minister for Law. If there's nothing more that you can add, I just want to say a big thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and remember to look after yourself.
Thank you so much, Noor. You've done such a wonderful job at chairing today, and I cannot thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedule to do this. I certainly learned a lot as well, and I think as a producer, it was absolutely amazing to see everybody uplifting each other and interacting, especially in the chat. It's really, really good. I think there's comments around making a women's group, just us, you know, branching it out, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you, Noor, and thank you to all our speakers who took the time to speak on the program today. We do meet back tomorrow, like Noor said. It's 8:50 a.m. Singapore time. So please have a well-rested night tonight. We all deserve it, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Take care.